Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan of SportsMemo.com, and this is the NBA Triple-Double Show for March the 31st, 2022, ending the month of March, obviously. We're hitting 63.4% against the spread on this show. And I want to thank everyone who took the chance and trusted my work with the 10-unit play last night on the Miami Heat, who came through in big-time fashion. I always get nervous when I release a 10-unit play because I don't want people to overbet these games. That's why I don't believe in the hype. I believe in the record and let the record speak for itself. We are on a 22-10 ATS run for 68% winning bets in the NBA. But again, thank you very much. If you tailed me, I appreciate it very much, and it was a very exciting game. It was one of the best games I've had the pleasure of watching, and it's not because Miami won. It just reminded me of what the playoffs are going to be when we get there. And speaking of the playoffs, we do have quite an interesting queue in the Eastern Conference with 4 teams, Miami, Boston, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee, all within 2 games of one another or less. Milwaukee is the 2 seed. They are a game and a half behind Miami. Boston is 47-30 on the season. They are exactly 2 games behind. And then we have 46-29, the 76ers, and that puts them 2 games behind as well with just 7 games to go. And some of these teams actually have only 6 games to go. But it's going to be a sprint down the finish. We also have a game on the card today with the Utah Jazz, who are now, losers of 5 in a row. Utah is 45-31 now. They've fallen to the 6th seed in the Western Conference. The 7th seed Minnesota Timberwolves are 43-34. They are 2.5 games behind Utah. Utah, as you will see in the show here, will take on the Lakers, who are somehow in the 10th seed right now at 31-44. Ridiculously bad, 13 games under 500 for any playoff team in the Western Conference to make it. And the Western Conference does have 3 teams that are in the playoff contention right now in that play-in tournament that have losing records. And the Eastern Conference does not have any. Mainly the Brooklyn Nets, 40-36. They play tonight, and we're going to take a look at that game right now. And as we can see here, we're going to add the graphics here. We have the Milwaukee Bucks here. As I said, 47-28. You can see that they've been a little bit under 500 against the spread. The Nets are a team that I think is going to become very dangerous in the playoffs. They are 8th in the Eastern Conference right now. They still have an outside shot to avoid that play-in tournament, which I think the remaining teams in that group of 4 would be very thankful. And again, to recap, the play-in tournament is the 7 versus 8 seed, and the winner of that game moves into the 7th seed slot of the bracket in the Eastern Conference. The loser of that 7-8 game then plays the winner of the 9-10 game, and the winner of that game then advances to the Eastern Conference bracket as the 8th seed. So in this game, I think Brooklyn is the pick here. They're minus 1.5 right now against Milwaukee. Milwaukee looked great against the Sixers 2 nights ago. Both teams are coming into this game with 1 day of rest. And with this play here, I have a couple angles that do support the Brooklyn Nets. I like the fact that there's more money actually being bet on Milwaukee than Brooklyn. We have Kyrie Irving playing at home again, and Kevin Durant are active for this game, so I like that combination. Milwaukee is just 2-11 against the spread when playing against a team this season that has a win percentage between 51 and 60%. They are also 21-44 in road games when facing teams that are making an average of 46% or more of their shots in games played over the last 3 seasons. And Brooklyn is 15-5 in home games when they're facing a very good 3-point shooting team, which the Bucks are. They're making 36% of their attempts. So in games that the Nets have played against 3-point shooting teams, making at least 36%, games played over the last 3 seasons, the Nets are 15-5 against the spread. So that is my lean right there. If you want to lean on the total, I think this game does play over the total quite comfortably. and that's supported by a bunch of angles. So take my word for it. That would be my lean if you asked me which I thought on the total. So let's go back to the slides here. We're going to go on to the next game here. This is the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Atlanta Hawks. And I already outlined the playoff format right now as if the season ended. The Atlanta Hawks are 5.5 games ahead of the New York Knicks, so they're into the playoffs. I do think Cleveland has a lot more to play here, a lot more on the line. They have an outside shot to avoid having to do the play-in tournament. And they've been kind of reeling in a similar fashion over a longer period of time, actually, than the Utah Jazz have. And they really need to start getting their act together. They were, the surprise team of the NBA for the season. Certainly the first half of the season, they were remarkable. But now the league has caught up to them. Coaching staffs, the assistants have designed defensive schemes that have slowed them down. And Cleveland now needs to adjust. And adjust they will, I think, against the Hawks. I like this game on the over. And the over is supported by several factors here, which I'll just get to just momentarily. Just moving the slides around myself here can be a little bit challenging, but we'll get to it. So we have Cleveland and Atlanta, 7:30 p.m. tonight. The over is supported by the fact that Atlanta is 18-7 to the over this season when facing teams that are making 46% or more of their shot attempts on the season. And they are 27-14 over the total when they're facing teams that have averaged 23 or more assists per game on the season, which obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers have. Now, in terms of a betting system here, we're going to play against favorites of 3.5 to 9.5 points in a game involving two teams that have point differentials of +3 to -3. That means they're either outscoring their opponents by 3 or being outscored by their opponents by 3 points and everything in between. And the second half of the season, and coming off a game in which they scored 125 or more points, that supports Cleveland, and it has won 72% of the bets over the last 5 seasons. And again, the over is well supported. You're going to play on the over with a team in a game involved where the total is 220 or more points, averaging 108 to 114 points per game on the season. And after 2 consecutive games in which both teams in their games scored 115 or more points, which involving the Atlanta Hawks, that has occurred, obviously. And they're going up against a relatively decent defense in the Cavaliers that's allowing 104 to 108 points per game in the season. That translates to 68% winners betting the over the last 25 NBA seasons. Alrighty, let's move on to the third and final game, and it's the Lake Show that has no water in the lake. I've been saying that for a while, but now it's getting to be a little bit old, and I'll have to come up with something a little bit funnier to be entertaining a little bit more. I just can't even believe the Lakers are in that 10 seed. San Antonio's got to find a way to get ahead of them. LeBron is in street clothes. They sent Anthony Davis back to Los Angeles. He's not on the road. He's not in Utah for this game, which I learned about half an hour ago. And, the Lakers are just a mess. Utah has lost quite a few right now, straight up and to the spread. And I'm going to pull up my data for this from my database. And we'll rattle off some good old-fashioned trends and angles here. The line opened at 9. The news came out about AD. It's now 13. I think it's going to go to 13.5. And I would not be afraid to lay double digits with the Utah Jazz. I just cannot back the Lakers, especially without LeBron and Anthony Davis both missing again. Russell Westbrook is who he is. On any given night, he could probably carry this whole team and shock the world with a double-digit dog upset win, but I don't think that is really in the cards. I don't see the body language of the Lakers indicating that they want to engage in a type of game like that would require 48 minutes of consistent, focused basketball. They just seem to be kind of the opposite of that. And honestly, I wish it wasn't the case because it's hard to watch the Lakers play right now, especially with LeBron and AD being part of that team, and Westbrook for that matter. So with the game here, I like the Utah Jazz, and the Utah Jazz are actually backed by my betting angle of the day, which is this one right here. And what you're going to do with this game is you're going to bet on favorites. And obviously, this is the Utah Jazz. The favorite has lost to the spread in 4 or more games. The favorite has lost to the spread by 30 or more points over the last 3 games. They have lost by 30.5 points over the last 3 games. And their opponent has gone over the total by 20 or more points in the last 3 games, which the Lakers have done. This all translates to 21-12 with 1 push against the number for 64% winning bets over the last 5 seasons. All adds up, folks, to a bet on the Utah Jazz minus the double digits over the no-show, hashtag Lake Show Lakers. And maybe I'll have to, change that if the Lakers actually show up tonight and prove me wrong. But I think this is just going to be another ugly game. I think Utah is the bet. You can also use in-game betting. I did that successfully with the Sixers earlier this week. This is a 13.5, 14-point line. Bet 50% pre-flop. See how the first quarter goes. Maybe the Lakers do show up and they put up a fight and get, maybe they're even with 8 minutes to go in the first quarter. You're going to be able to get the Jazz then at about 9.5. So consider that, because very rarely does a game just start to finish where the favorite, like a Utah Jazz, the best line available would be the closing line. So let the volatility of the game come to you, and I would recommend 25% at 9.5 points, and then the other 25% at minus 6.5 on the Utah Jazz. Gives you 3 bets. Even if 2 of the 3 win, being the 9.5 and the 6.5, you break even. You only lose the vig on the 50% pre-flop bet. So anyway, that'll conclude today's show for the triple-double NBA show. I'll be back again tomorrow with Ronald Cabang on Friday. And until then, remember 2 things, folks. Bet with your heads, not over it, and may all the wins be yours. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy your Thursday.